We laymen can mosey along with the old idea that electrons are little particles revolving around a central nucleus. It explains enough and doesn't hurt anyone. But it's not good enough for advanced science. Fixed paradigms in science can impede progress and hurt people. Because everyone assumed that the adult brain doesn't change with experience, millions of life years were wasted for stroke and brain-injured patients. We assumed there was nothing to be done for them. Now look what's happened with Gabby Giffords. She's learning to use other parts of her brain to communicate, and she's doing so through repetitive training and practice. That's all it takes for the brain to change. Expectations create our world. Our paradigms, also called by other approaches narratives, scripts, schemas, mindsets, and life traps, have a great deal to do with creating the reality we experience. Because they are resistant to change, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. As we get older, we stick with friends who support our assumptions and let others drop by the wayside. Our friends will generally share our views about politics, religion, sports teams, and the other people in town. We'll try to find work that doesn't challenge our expectations of life. We'll read the newspapers and magazines and listen to the radio stations that support our prejudices. We choose between Fox News and MSNBC, depending on our paradigms of the world. If our self-destructive behavior is drinking too much, intellectual laziness, overeating, wasting time, or neglecting our health, we're not likely to keep friends who challenge us on these issues. If we gamble or use drugs or are into sex addiction, we'll find people who will encourage us. If our family or loved ones keep after us on these behaviors, we'll avoid them, tune them out, or find a way to make them shut up or give up. So we find ways to help us literally not see the consequences of our self-destructive behavior. Certain assumptions characteristically accompany each other because they're trying to deal with the same recurring issue, like controlling fear or being perfectionistic. The self we present to the world is deeply affected by these patterns. They underlie what we call our personality. We may believe that everyone loves us, or that everyone is out to get us. We may see ourselves as a bewildered innocent or a wise cynic, as a powerless victim or a capable hero. Each of us thus develops out of these assumptions our own unique world of paradigms, which determine how we hear, feel, think, see, guess, and act. If we've been lucky, our assumptions fit pretty well with reality. But many of our assumptions have been absorbed uncritically, learned at an early age, learned without conscious awareness, and if they are in error, they can result in decisions that blow up in our faces. Because our paradigms are unconscious, they don't get corrected by the results of bad decisions. I won't try that again. Thus, we can keep on making the same mistakes. Ideally, when we experience something that is contrary to our assumptions, we should consciously challenge them and perhaps make changes. But the automatic self does a lot to keep that disconfirming experience out of consciousness. It uses defenses like denial, rationalization, or changing the subject to protect our assumptions. Here are some common examples of paradigms and the effects they have on us. Paradigm: mistrust and abuse. Major assumptions: no one can be trusted. Unconscious: it's my fault. I'm bad. I brought it on myself. Always sees: abuse, betrayal, others' ulterior motives, chemistry, excitement in dangerous partners. Never sees: goodness in the world, effects of own shame and self-blame, isolation, defensiveness. Emotional style: volatile, quick to rage, dissociated, confused, hypervigilant, anxious, depressed. Paradigm. Dependence. Major assumptions. The world is a dangerous place. I'm not safe. I can't handle this without someone stronger to protect me. Always sees. Danger, threats, crime, disease, contamination. Never sees. Necessity of daily survival skills. Possibility of rewards in independence. Pride in independence. Emotional style. Reassurance seeking, indecisive, passive, fearful, phobic, hypochondriacal. Looks for others to depend on. May rely on drugs for relief. Paradigm. Failure. Major assumptions. I'm a failure, stupid, incompetent, no use trying to change. Always sees. The real world as simply impossible, often develops a vivid fantasy world. Never sees. Value of trying things differently. Own self-sabotage, which may be extreme. Emotional style. Isolated, schizoid, anxious. Paradigm. Unrelenting standards. Major assumptions. I must be perfect at everything I do. Weakness is a sin. Always sees. Life as a series of challenges to overcome. Others are seen primarily as competitors. Never sees. Value of relationships. Value of relaxation. Virtue of trying if he can't succeed. Emotional style. Perfectionistic, competitive, driven, compulsive, workaholic, joyless. Paradigm. Paranoid. Major assumptions. Everybody's out for himself. No one can be trusted. Always sees. Threats to safety, security, self-respect. Never sees. Genuine concern from others. Self-fulfilling nature of paranoid fantasies. Emotional style. May be outwardly pleasant and charming, but always in control. Under pressure, may be intimidating and coercive. Most likely to be isolated. The person we focus on in this chapter, who is unquestioning about how she sees the world, might have a paradigm like this. Paradigm. Trapped in own assumptive world. Major assumptions. I know what I'm doing, and results to the contrary are not my fault. Always sees. Evidence that confirms belief system. Never sees. Evidence that disconfirms beliefs. It's seen as a rare exception, or not even noticed at all. Emotional style. Content, confident, conforming. One of the major reasons why it's hard for us to get over dysfunctional paradigms is our habit of selective attention. We're more likely to register experiences that support our beliefs and forget about, or just not see, those that run counter to what we want to believe. The basic principle of interpersonal psychotherapy, a highly respected method, is this. The reason it's so difficult to change problem behavior is that the behavior is based on beliefs and attitudes that are continually validated by other people and by selective inattention to results that contradict those beliefs. If I'm angry all the time, I'm likely to get into a lot of fights, confirming my belief that people are dangerous and you always have to be ready to fight. If I'm highly suspicious, I'm not going to be very open or trusting with people, and they will treat me with suspicion in return. Those who treat me kindly, I'll assume, are trying to put something over on me. If you have a depressed paradigm, you are likely to pay attention to bad news, signs of rejection or failure, while you will probably overlook good things that happen and take for granted the people who love you. If you have a perfectionistic paradigm, you will never be satisfied with your own work. You'll spend many unnecessary hours giving whatever you do one more coat of polish, not recognizing that sometimes things are best left alone. You won't believe it when people praise your work because you will always be focused on the last little deficiencies that only you can see. If the paradigm of your marriage is blaming the other partner for everything, you won't get far in working things out. I once worked with a man who was unhappy in his marriage, believing his wife was moody and likely to take out her bad moods on him. He claimed that when he came home from work, he could tell immediately what her mood was, without seeing her face or hearing her voice. He said it had nothing to do with the state of housekeeping. He could feel something like a tension in the atmosphere, the difference between a relaxed silence and a threatening silence. He was right every time, he said. I thought this might be his paradigm at work, projecting his own internal state onto his wife. I asked him, next time he felt she was in a bad mood, to pretend he couldn't tell, to go on and greet her like nothing was wrong, and if she was cranky, to try to respond as if he were interested in what was upsetting her. He was very happy that this strategy worked, that her cranky mood had soon disappeared. But I still wondered if his wife's mood was really there at all, or if he might be projecting his own crankiness. Paradigms and the body. Our paradigms become part of our bodies as well. They result in changes in the brain and in other systems: nervous, endocrine, digestive, and musculoskeletal. New technology keeps improving our ability to see the brain at work, so that science is very close to being able to trace the connections between thoughts and their pathways in the brain. Chronic anxiety caused by unconscious fear results in damage to the hippocampus, a part of the brain that is essential to calming us down. With enough stress, nerve cells in the hippocampus begin to shrivel up and die. Victims of child abuse and combat veterans have shrunken hippocampi. Continued anxiety also interferes with the hippocampus's ability to consolidate memory, so we get confused and have trouble telling the difference between what really happened and what we imagine. New technology lets us see that continued depression results in physical changes in the structures of the brain. We know that pain can be influenced by our minds, even clearly physical pain like that resulting from surgery. People who have positive assumptions about themselves live longer, have fewer heart attacks, and require less anesthesia during surgery. Optimists' wounds heal more quickly than those of pessimists. People who have positive attitudes about aging live an average of 7.5 years longer than those with negative attitudes. These effects on our bodies result in changes in both our conscious mind and the automatic self. The more we experience the anxiety response, the fight or flight syndrome, the easier it becomes to set it off. Anxiety develops a hair trigger ready to go off at stimuli that we don't even notice. Not understanding what made us anxious, the conscious mind searches for an explanation, and often enough creates its own. I'm feeling panicky again, and I don't know why. But it makes me remember the time I got so scared and Dad just laughed at me. He thought I was a coward. I must be a coward. I try to tough it out, but something's wrong with me. I'm different. I'm delicate. Everyone can see. Fear then starts to affect our assumptions about ourselves and changes our personality, all in the automatic self, beneath the level of consciousness. But paradigms, as powerful as they are, can be changed. The wiring in the brain contains our beliefs and assumptions. With enough deliberate practice, we can rewire ourselves. Remember the jugglers? Similarly, among violinists and guitar players, the part of the brain that controls the left hand becomes larger and more complex. The results of successful psychotherapy are visible in brain scans. If you have obsessive-compulsive disorder, certain areas of your brain light up on scans. With good treatment, those areas gradually dim and others light up more. We respond to placebos, sugar pills, or ineffective treatments just because we believe they're working. At the same time, the belief, not the placebo, can cause chemical changes in the brain. London taxi drivers, who have to learn the knowledge, detailed information about the streets of the city, have brains that are enlarged and enriched in memory centers like the hippocampus. Learning and practice forms new neural networks that embody and contain our paradigms. A powerful example of beliefs at work: when school children are encouraged to believe that their bad grades come from lack of effort rather than lack of intelligence, they show remarkable gains in both persistence and accomplishment.
This is the end of disc number 1. Please insert disc number 2.